Welcome to the Kansas City Open Series. I'm Glenn Jones. I'm here with Jeff Hoogland.
Good to be here, Glenn.
Jeff, we last saw you in Indianapolis where you played a 4-color loam control deck to a top 4 finish in the Legacy Open, right?
Yep.
Well, today you've brought another brew, but this time for Standard.
Yeah, actually, I played a deck very similar to this in Indianapolis.
Well?
Yeah.
Well, we missed it then. We've got it now. So we had you on camera earlier in the day. We dubbed the deck Green Flash on stream. What do you call it?
I call it Rug Flash. It's the colors.
Sure, very close.
Pretty much everything plays out at instant speed. There's a couple of cards like Mizzium Mortars and Pillar Flame that are just a must-have. But other than that, the entire deck plays out at instant speed.
So what was the genesis behind developing this particular brew?
I was kind of bored with the other decks that had in the format. I wanted to try and attack the format from a little bit different angle, and I really enjoyed never having to tap out on my turn.
Sure.
And I think Yeva is a very powerful card, even without other cards to flash in. Like just a 4/4 surprise blocker is a very serious clock, and a lot of times it trades with a creature for free.
Yeah, it's obviously huge when people are turning to things like Mizzium Mortars to kill creatures. It's a card that's not very good against Yeva, considering you get at least a block or an attack with it, one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
So what kind of a role does the deck assume in most matchups?
Okay, so the general game plan for this deck is you 1-for-1 your opponent a whole bunch, be it with counter spells or removal like Searing Spear and Mizzium Mortars, and then eventually every creature in your deck is some form of card advantage. Your Snapcaster kills something and leaves a 2/1 body behind. Your Wolfear Avenger is going to block and regenerate and kill 3/3s. Your Yeva is going to get surprise blockers. At its core, this deck is really a Huntmaster deck, though, because you have such great control over how much you flip it back and forth, because you can always pass your turn and then usually cast 2 spells on theirs to flip it back again.
Yeah, in the booth we were actually describing how great Huntmaster seemed with Yeva regardless of which one you cast first.
Yes.
So, I imagine one of the creatures that this deck has a little bit of trouble answering is just specifically Thragtusk, as far as just a value creature. Now, do you rely on your counterspells more for that, or Wolfear Avenger to grind it out? Where do you go?
Usually, counterspells are an ideal choice, but some of the mid-range decks are also playing Cavern of Souls, so Wolfear Avenger is definitely a good second best. Like, it blocks both halves of the Thragtusk, and a lot of the time, if you have a Kessig Wolfrun on the table, you can attack through it and still push damage and regenerate.
Also relevant, yeah. So I guess he plays sort of a Boros Reckoner style role in that capacity.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Moving over to the sideboard, I see that mostly it's just supplements to what's going on in the main deck. You've got a few more Pillar Flames, Mizzium Mortars, some Rolling Temblars for when you use Sweeper.
Yep.
And then you've supplemented your counterspells with Counterflux, Dissipate, Dispel. But I find the Garruk Primal Hunter is really interesting. You got 3 of them, so clearly there's a plan going on there. Where do we bring in Garruk Primal Hunter?
Okay, so Garruk Primal Hunter is one of the few cards in this format that I feel is good enough to tap out for. I mean, if you're playing against the Esper control deck or a lot of the other mid-range deck, if he gets on the table and he sits there, he's going to generate piles of card advantage for you.
Definitely.
Whether it's drawing a bunch of cards off your Kessig Wolfrun creature or just churning out an army of beasts.
Okay, I really like him, especially alongside Yeva and Wolfear Avenger, where you can just suddenly have a creature when they didn't really expect one.
Yes.
So normally people are okay kind of clearing the board against a Garruk and hoping you just make a beast. You can actually punish them for that pretty significantly.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot of the super good removal in the format is like Dreadbore and other things that are sorcerer speed. So having all your stuff come down at their end step gets you at least some kind of value out of it.
Okay, well, what kind of matchups are you hoping to avoid with this particular deck, and which ones are you looking to fight?
Ideally, aggro is a fairly good matchup. There's 11 pieces of removal in the main deck, plus Huntmaster of the Fells, and then extra removal in the sideboard to kind of grind them out. Esper Control, I feel, is another really good matchup just because Wolfear Avenger is a very difficult card for them to deal with, unless they have their 1 or 2 of a card that makes you sacrifice the creature.
Devour Flesh?
Devour Flesh. He usually hangs out, and Supreme Berta can't get rid of him.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Matchups that are more difficult, the Junk Reanimator is very difficult if they draw 1 or both of their Cavern of Souls they're playing, but without those you have things like Syncopate, Disruptor, and Burial Rites and their large threats, so usually you can win through those.
Yeah, I imagine the key is to be able to deploy a threat and then start holding open counter mana, because once they get the initiative, it's just kind of hard to retake it.
Yeah, exactly, and when you do get behind sometimes, a Mizzium Mortars Overload is a good way to mop up the field and restart.
That's a removal spell I've personally gained a lot of respect for over the past week, so
yeah.
I can appreciate a good Overload. Well, Jeff, thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Appreciate your take on the deck, and there you go.
Thanks for having me.